Triangle is a 2009 film directed by Christopher Smith. You might remember him from his grand opus Severance. Severance was a bit of an indie darling in the horror community. Triangle is about a group of Australians who are pretending that they're from Miami, Florida, while also making quite possibly the greatest sci-fi thriller of its decade. So, yeah, this is a fucking great movie. I really don't want to spoil too much about it. The basic plot is pretty simple. You have this woman, played by Melissa George, who she's obviously having a bit of an issue. She's has some kind of mental problem going on. She has an autistic son that drives her kind of bananas. And she's going on this yacht trip, boat trip, whatever, with this group of guys, one of whom is Liam Hemsworth. And you have a bunch of other Australian folks, Joshua McIver, Jack Taylor. It's really a bunch of people you're not going to know the names of, but they're great. One of them looks like a McPoyle, which is pretty awesome. This group of folks who are Australian, but totally not Australian, they go on this boat trip, and there's this electrical storm that capsizes their boat, and then they see this huge luxury liner from like the 1930s coming in, and they're rescued. But there's no one on this ship, and then things go a bit crazy. I'll talk about the plot a bit more. I'm not gonna full on spoil everything, but there are some spoilers to be had, and I'll save that. If you want spoilers, go to these times. First of all, this isn't a horror movie. The cover art made me think this was going to be a horror movie. I thought this was going to be like a Bermuda Triangle ghost flick. I kind of figured that they would end up on a large ship of some kind, and that's where most of the horror elements would come into play. But I was thinking more along the lines of a more competent ghost ship instead of what we get, which is, again, it's a sci-fi thriller with some horror elements. The way that Christopher Smith directs this movie, the way that it's edited, the way that everything happens. I mean, it's the sound, even the lighting to some degree, because it's very low budget, but it's also very dreamlike. I'm not sure if that was intended. It had a budget. I mean, they built some of the ship for this. Either which way, it's a very dreamy quality. The tension just keeps on ratcheting up and up and up. It keeps you going. Like, there's no slow moments. It never really stops, but it still gives you time to kind of grasp what's going on. It's perfectly written, perfectly timed out. I mean, there's nothing really wrong about the way that he goes about this film. Melissa George is great. The whole cast is really great. But Melissa George really carries things. Her performance is I believed what she was going through, even though it is very fantastical, even though it is very dreamy. She just rocks it out of the park. I'd like to see more from Melissa George, certainly. So this isn't really much of it's scary, okay? There are scary elements, and it has this sense of dread, kind of, from the very first frame. You get this sense of dread kind of forming throughout the first act and into the second, and then once the first big twist is revealed. There's a lot of twists. It keeps on twisting until the very fucking end, but once the first twist comes around, you start to realize this isn't quite what you thought it was going to be. And that was a surprise, and it just had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I didn't want to look away. I never got bored. I never thought, oh, this is kind of stupid. I was always thinking, okay, what the fuck's going to happen next? How is this going to move forward? What's the next twist going to be? Because I know there's going to be more. And it just kept going and going and going. And yeah, I was when the first twist comes along, I kind of figured it out about maybe a minute beforehand. After that, like, it kept me going. Like, every so often I would say, okay, well, this is the next twist coming along. I would get that right, and then another one would come that I didn't really quite expect. And it was really interesting. And by the final big twist, there was a bit of an artsy one near the end that I wasn't as keen on, but it connects everything pretty nicely. But the last big twist, it really, like, everything just kind of comes together, and you're just like, whoa. It's one of those. And so, you know, that's my final kind of rating thing is whoa. It's a head explosion of awesome. So, spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, fucking turn off the fucking video and go check this out. I saw this through Netflix, the DVD service, not the streaming service. It'll probably show up on a streaming site at some point. But right now, I mean, you can go on Amazon Prime and stream it for, I think, like $3. So it's more than worth it. Trust me, it's definitely worth it. And if you do have the Netflix DVD service, fucking put it at the top of your queue because you fucking need this. So spoilers all the way. So the first big twist and kind of the premise of the movie, and I'm not going to give away, like, these are mild spoilers. I'm not going to give away like the actual full twist, because if you haven't seen this and you're like, oh, I can handle the spoilers, fuck you. Go watch this movie. So the first big twist is that there's a killer on this ship that's picking them off, and it turns out that it's Melissa George's character, and she's essentially in a time loop, is what you come to realize. And it's so good. There's elements of, there's obviously Groundhog Day in there. Any time loop movie, there's elements of Groundhog Day, Primer, Time Crimes, a little bit of Moon is in there actually. And if you've seen those movies, you'll probably get where this is coming from. It works together thematically so well that I don't think you're gonna have a problem with that. It's essentially just like watching any good Groundhog Day-esque movie. You're like, okay, well, this is a great version of Groundhog Day. No harm, no foul. Groundhog Day is essentially just a type of plot that you have lying around now, and it's a way of telling a story. And this is one of the best examples of a Groundhog Day-esque plot. The one plot hole I could think of is there's this moment where she drops her keys. And before that, you see a scene where they hear the keys drop, and they go and they find them, and she's like, oh, these are my keys. And exactly like that. And she says they're hers, and then later on you see her actually drop them. And she realizes, that she was the one dropping the keys, and you get this whole, that's kind of when the time loop thing starts to become more evident. And I gotta know, what did another one of her copies in the past not drop the keys? Because the way that we're given this world, the way that it's explained to us, is that she's doing essentially the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over again. So there had to be that initial key drop from one of her who did not lose her keys while on the boat, because she doesn't have her keys when she gets on the cruise ship, the liner. Where did the keys come from? So that she could drop them? That's literally the only thing I can think of to really gripe about, which is great. That's awesome. That's the plot hole. That's the big thing that I can't wrap my head around. And then a whole bunch of other shit happens, and so it doesn't really matter. So that's the only plot hole I can think of. And even that, it's like, okay, there was a past version who had her keys, dropped them, and the loop continues. Fair enough. You also never figure out exactly what the deal is with this time travel thing. You don't know exactly where the cruise ship came from. You don't know why the electrical storm happened. And that's awesome. That's great. Good job. Good job. Because I don't care. I don't need to know where that fucking thing came from. I don't need to know its history. You get like this brief scene where they kind of explain what the ship is, what the meaning of its name is. But you don't need to know anything more, because it's not about the ship. It's not about the fucking time travel. It's about this woman. It's about her plot. It's about her relationship with her son. And when you finally get the big twist regarding her son, and this time travel loop thing, when it all kind of loops back around, it's almost perfect. I don't like the last, there's this taxi driver. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, obviously. I don't like that. I think that gets a little artsy, gets a little like film school-ish. But that's very brief, and it's really just connective tissue. And it's that and the keys. A little bit of connective tissue and a little plot hole that's easily explained by a little brain work. That's excellent. Go fucking see Triangle, you fucking bastards. So yeah, that's my review of Triangle. And please follow me on Twitter at Michael Keane, and all these other things below here. I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on movies that are streaming so that people can actually watch these flicks who don't want physical media. I understand that. I have a lot of streaming services that I subscribe to, but I wanted to watch this. I heard a lot of great things about it, and it did not disappoint. So, check it out now. And yeah, rock on, buckaroos.